What's going on? What's going on? I come to you all in peace, love, and positivity. I want to welcome you all back to another important lesson in TMP, where we talk traditional modern parenting. My mistakes, my mistakes. It's pretty hot outside. Just came in. I'm trying to get into the shower. So let's begin this class. This is where we talk about the problem, but also trying to find a solution. I hear a lot of everyone, and I say a whole lot of everybody talk about high value man, high value woman. Oh, somebody hurt you. High body counts. He should cheat. She should be able to cheat. My money is my money. Whatever, so forth and so on. But this is where I talk about traditional, the modern, then the solution. Or at least try to come up with a solution instead of looking at it as a lost cause, right? Because we need a solution, not for us. I like to classify us over 30 as in a different bracket. We need to be really focusing on the future, the children, right? But we have to start from the beginning. How did our especially in my culture, for those who look like me and shades lighter than me, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, whatever, with shades like mine, we have to do the breakdown, as I like to call it. We got to think about the future. I'll be doing a lesson on the countering the conspiracy to destroy black boys. That's the future we talking about, right? But this lesson is the breakdown, the TMP breakdown, traditional modern parenting breakdown. If you disagree, if you don't like it, if you love it, if you don't, whatever, put it in the comments, subscribe, hit the like button. But I do this all for learning purposes. Let's do the breakdown. What I have here in my hands is Let Us Make a Slave. And no, I will not be reading the whole packet. I will be just reading passages and pieces out of this for whatever you see highlighted out of this Let Us Make a Slave. Remember, I said this is the breakdown. You guys got to remember, we have to start from the beginning, then get into the middle so we can kind of figure out what we're going to do at the end, right? So let's start. Let's Make a Slave is a study of the scientific process of a man breaking and slave making. It describes the rationale and the results of Anglo-Saxon ideas and methods of ensuring a master-slave relationship. And the message is still true till to this day. This is 1712. This is read by William Lynch. Do your own research by William Lynch or William Shakespeare. But let's keep going. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. Remember, I'm reading all highlighted parts here, right? So they're using fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. Fear, distrust, and envy. On the top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There, in the third is intelligence, then sex, then size, then the size of the plantations or the size of your house, the status of your plantation or the status of your job, the attitude of the owner, whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair or coarse hair, tall or short. These lists of differences, I shall give you an outline of actions and assure you that distrust is stronger than trust and envy is stronger than adulation, respect, and admiration. Okay? Let's continue to go. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on the process and become self-refueling and self-regenerated for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. Okay? Now remind you if you got lost or if you're tuning in, remind you, this is the breakdown, TMP, traditional modern parenting, where we go into the beginnings. We're going to talk about the problem, but we're trying to get to a solution. Not for our purposes at this point, because most of us are getting old, bad health anyway, but just for the children. Let's continue. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black versus the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves against the light-skinned slaves and the light-skinned slaves against the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male and the male versus the female. Why is it so important to flip it both around? Because you got to remember, they might be writing different stories for each motherfucker person, right? You must also have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. It is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust us only. Now, remind you, this is not for racism only. Just because these things happened years ago, I'm not calling you a racist. If you're watching this, I never said you were a racist. You ain't hear me say that come out my mouth. I said I want to break down the story. Let's get into a place for the culture to make some real results for the community. You understand? You understand. All right? If you have any questions, put it down. Anything you want to say or add on to, put it down. All right? Let's continue. A brief discourse. A brief discourse is this. They wrote cardinal principles for making a Negro. Their top 6 principles were, number 1, and I want you to understand that they look at us as animals, or how they looked at us. We're animals then, now, not all, but you see where I'm going with this. Number 1, both horse and nigger are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. I shouldn't get copyrighted for this. I'm reading it exactly word for word. Okay. And I really believe that it's only best that you see and hear it for what it really is. Okay. Both horse and nigger are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. That's number 1. Number 2, both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. Number 3, for orderly futures, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the young. Now, why do you think that they need to pay attention to the female and the young the most? Okay, just brainstorm. Just brainstorm. Number 4, both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Now, some of you may be younger, like, what you mean crossbred? Well, a lot of our ancestors and past greats didn't have the right that we do now to just walk around and be like, hey girl, how you doing? Or hey, my name Keisha, or whatever, you know what I mean? They kind of actually did the artificially assimilating themselves and all of that. Do some research on who you really are. You know what I'm saying? Don't just stop at slavery. You got to go back some more too, because we greater than that. Let's continue. And that was number 4. Number 5 is both must be taught to respond to a new and peculiar language. Maybe we call this English, new English, broken English. Most of these English words or languages that we speak, the modern day, is prefixed anyway, so it's a sloppy language. Understand and understand that we did not speak this language. We had to be stripped and beaten and even murdered to get this language pushed off. We couldn't read none of our old notebooks and letters we used to write to ourselves unless you hid it. But other than that, it was all order. Okay. And last but not least, the number 6 cardinal rule is psychological and physical institutions of confinement must be created for both. Now, that could be prison, that can be schools. Okay. I might even throw in SNAP and other little benefits they try to use as a control purposes, the welfares and stuff like that, but mainly schools and prisons. Number 6 says psychological and physical institutions of confinement must be created for both. Okay, so however or wherever the methods used, you must understand we gotta check our traumatization. That adds on to our traumatization. All of that shit is in our DNA. Even if you didn't experience it, even if you didn't live it, but they try to be ignorant towards it, but we still do. That still play a big part on us. Another reason they haven't given us reparations is because we are psychologically still in a slave ship. You guys got to understand these prefixes of words, and especially the American language. Which we spelled it AMERIKAANS. where they spell it America. You obviously see that they're doing something here. We didn't even spell Americans how the way they spelled it. They're fucking it up. So, but let's stay on course, man. We're trying to break something, or if we don't break it, we're trying to make something anew, so people can juggle the relationship status or themselves a little bit better. You understand? Because this life, especially for those my color or those that look like me, I'm not perfect, but we do get a little bit let me say hatred out here. But let me finish. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Right? They're not talking about the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, especially the 30s. We're in the middle, but the 40s, 50s, and 60s for sure. A lot of that, we're aging due to the era and everything has changed for us. We're aging much more rapidly and shit like that. So that's what they're talking about. Pay attention to the future. So 20 and below, 20s and below, or 29 and below, 25 and below. I mean, saying whatever number works for you, but anything below, all the way down to a baby. Yes. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. Okay? And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process, right? For example, take the case of a wild stud horse, all right? A female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with the two captured nigger males in their natural state. A pregnant, and it says NB for nigger, but I'm gonna just say females and stuff, because this says it exactly how it says it. I'm not, if you want pictures, I'll send you. Let me start over. For example, take the case for the wild stud horse, a female horse, and an already infant horse. Compare the breaking process with the two captured black males in their natural state, and a pregnant black female with her infant offspring. Take the stud horse, break him for limited containment. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her and comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have desired offspring. Numbers, okay? Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again, right? Which means he's always going to come back, eat out the hand. Train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand. Remember what I said. And she will turn and train the infant horses to eat out of your hands also. And this is all written down. Let me highlight some of these words for you guys, just because you think that they're like, man, they wouldn't put those words in there. So you see the paragraph, but I want you to pay attention to the two words at the bottom. If you can see that. If you can see that. But let's continue. TMP, traditional modern parenting. So what are we gonna do with it? We gotta get out the, okay, we know that we know that they fuck with us. We know that they did something to it, right? Like how they doing with the air, the water, and the land. We knowing that they doing something, or they did something to mess us up on the inside, right? And you gotta enter and understand that these are years of trauma, right? All right, some of you may have been SA'd and etc. And some of you may have went to prison and been imprisoned, or some of you may not grow up with mothers or fathers or both, no family, right? You got to understand that first, it started off as a plan, a process, a plan to break us up. Now, don't get me wrong, in the earliest 1920s and stuff, we were married, we were producing, but you got to remember, they started to destroy the Black Wall Streets and all of that to break us some more, right? which means it kind of broke up the household. You can look up that too, man. You know what I'm saying? Read everything, how they did this. All the way down to our children. All the way down to Little Rock 9, if you've never heard of it. The Little Rock 9. Okay, this is not about that lesson, but this is you see where I'm going. Let's continue. In this section, this section itself that I'm going to read is very, very crucial because they wrote it. He made sure he wrote a personal section. The title of it is The Breaking Process of the African Women. Okay, black, brown, rainbow, all the colors that's rainbow mixed together make black. So, whatever you want to say. The breaking process of the African women. Let's begin. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any signs of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you will spoil good economics. This is the breaking process. When in complete submission, you will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. All right, we've seen a lot of things fall out of place. Thug life. No. The Tupac said it first, and he said it better. Not in only meaning. Only in meaning. My apologies. The hatred you give little infants, fuck everybody, everyone, everywhere, everything. You understand? Let's continue. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall enforce these area of subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female nigger. We have reversed the relationships. In her natural uncivilized state, she will have a strong dependency on the uncivilized black male. You know what it say. You know what it say. But I put black, I say black male, because those words, after saying them so many times, right? In her natural state, in her natural uncivilized state, she will have a strong dependency on the uncivilized black male. What is she saying? What are they saying? An uncivilized black woman, an uncivilized, which means they saying uncivilized, but pretty much the two kids that didn't go to church when they grew up, right? They talk about that type. Or the two kids who did go to church, y'all might have a little better connection, you and her, on the Bible type, right? Pretty much. Let's stay with me, don't get lost. We have reversed the relationships. In her natural uncivilized state, she will have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male. And she will have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring. And will raise her female offspring to be dependent of the male. Nature provided her... My apologies. Nature provided her with this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling apart one uncivilized black and then whipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her psychological dependent state to move to a frozen independent state. So let's bring this to natural terms. You watching your man go to prison for you watching the system beat your man to the system. You thinking, oh, child support, they're going to arrest him, he going to do it. No, then they take your husband or your man away or your baby father away for 10, 15, 20 years. Who's going to pay the child support now, you understand? Or will you watch, or when they say, by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her psychological, which is her mind state, to move to a frozen independent state, meaning you strip from looking at him as, because you're forced to be what? Independent. So while all of us guys are pushing on these girls, or she want to be a high value woman, you got to understand, before there was ever high value women and high value men, or for us to even have a conversation like this, she was already she was already taught to raise her sons to be weak and raise her daughters to be stronger because of what the white man did. And it's still in our DNA or RNA. You guys might not like this. You guys may not agree with me, but this is all on paper. You can still look it up. And don't believe everything Google tell you. I don't get this shit from Google. Okay? I got sources. And I give big kudos, big kudos, big praises, big love and positivity to our ancestors, to all the elders that are still alive today. Puerto Rican, Mexican, black, shit, even white, that still hold on to some of these stories and these gems and some of those papers, and that's just all Jews right now. Okay. So yeah, her Independence Day, once she destroyed the dependency, like once they destroyed our connection, once they were destroyed, she was forced to just become one by herself, which made her feel alone by herself. Like, damn, now I gotta fend for myself. Now, before y'all think this was about money or houses and cars, this is about survival before. This was about, am I gonna live to do what I need to do, or just to get a chance to see freedom? And freedom is a prefix word, okay? Let's continue. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. I'm gonna say it again. In this frozen psychological state, the mind of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring, her kids, in reverse roles. For the fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be more mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she will become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What do you got? You got a black woman out in front and the black man behind her scared. Now I know, before we get into that, remind you, this was a survival state. So you gotta remember, man, a lot of great men died. Those would probably be considered the pimps or the top G's. The ones that hid and didn't want to fight and do, those were considered the simps. And those, I'm trying to break this down in the simplest form. So her being the independent, let's be honest, man. Coochie have calmed down a lot of things. Coochie calms. It has calmed down a lot of many things, wars and all. Okay, I know y'all heard of, do your research on California and those wars of women. But understanding that this is for survival state. So her being in front, him in the back was like protection reasons. Maybe because if you at those times, because there were black slave owners too. In those times, knowing it was a woman, you know, even if she was clever or deceitful or whatever, or had her little tricks up her sleeve like Harriet, you know what I mean? They had to do what they had to do to protect the man that they loved, right? Until you had those type of men, the Nat Turners and all of them, the Marcus Garveys, the Malcolms, fight backs. I call them the fight backs. You know what I'm saying? The get backs. And we're the get backs. They're the fight backs. We're the get backs. Our DNA is going to remember this stuff. And that rage, that power, all that going to come from within us. And the get back is going to return. The get back is in return, and the get back is still in process. It's in process right now. So, if you're not either, drop them nines, because I am at R22. But let's continue. Offspring reverse in the row. Okay, what do you got? You got the nigger woman out in front and the nigger man behind her and scared. I had to say it, so you understood and understood. This is perfect for sound sleep and good economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly. For out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. All the social workers, or most women, your managers in most places are banks and food establishments, CNs and TNs and RNs and nurses and all that. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early infant slave bonding process. He is a good tool, not ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time he is 16, he is soundly broken in and is ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a good unit of good labor force. So now they're talking about picking up the cotton or whatever they were doing. But you see that they said they had a marked age. I'm gonna underline that for you. They say by the time he is 16, he is soundly broken. Right? So most of us, what you mean? Like, how are they broken? Most niggas not going to work. They're not going to work, Sean. What do you think? Come on, Essa. Yeah, no, they're talking about prisons. By the time your sons are 15, 16, and already been broken into the system, and already got enough of the trash music and the trashness where they couldn't reverse from it. And guess what the mother was doing? She was forced to still be independent, pay all the bills, take care of the household. I'm not saying, okay, we're not going to get into that. It's in the conversation. But she was forced to do all that at the time. Even when, like, come on, you guys. I know y'all seen Roots and all those movies that how it was for the black man then, just for him to survive. Right? He had to put his all on the line. Even when he put his all on the line, just to come back home to his wife. She wanted him home. She loved him, which is why she stood up the most and took up, because she wanted to protect her husband. Okay, now we're not finna continue this conversation and get into, well, what's the answers and stuff. We're gonna get into another piece of that. Let me finish this little piece of passage. Leave everything else in the comments. Continually through the breaking of the uncivilized savage niggers, by throwing the uncivilized female savage into a frozen state of independency, by killing the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mold of nigger male savage, we have created an orbiting cycle that runs on the axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the female savages. We show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic units and examine them closely. You see how they talk about it like case studies and stuff? They talk about it so confidently. With our numbers low in marriage, and now I'm not here to talk marriage. Marriage was because they knew even when they got it, even if, like, let's just say we all got married tomorrow. They know us doing it by them, on their paperwork. We ain't never need paperwork. We stayed together forever. We stayed together forever. Now we done got these distorted village, not distorted village, these distorted visions of how things needed to be. But let's be for real. If the traditional way worked, it would have still been going on. The mom wasn't happy being home all day or whatever. Somebody wasn't happy, or somebody was unhappy, or the peace was interrupted. Somebody wanted something different. Traditional modern parenting is where we're going to discuss the problems, but then we're going to try to make a solution. Because if you're already 50, 60, placing 30, 40, you need to be thinking about the future. Not for yourself, but for your children. Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I am SR22. TMP.